The legendary Murray Walker, a master of F1 commentary, was left speechless at the 1998 Belgian Grand Prix, easily one of the most chaotic races in Formula One history. This was a race packed with jaw-dropping drama, a massive 13-car crash, unbelievable wrecks, pit lane scuffles, a heated battle between the Schumacher brothers, and a surprising underdog victory. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos. Even in qualifying, things got intense. The conditions were ideal, cool and dry, and the two McLarens of Mika Häkkinen and David Coulthard were locked in a fierce duel. Every time Coulthard laid down a fast lap, Häkkinen would answer back, chipping away at those critical tenths. Häkkinen ultimately took pole, edging out Coulthard by just a tenth. Damon Hill, driving his heart out, claimed P3, nudging out Michael Schumacher, who'd been slowed by a yellow flag incident. Jacques Villeneuve lined up in 6th after a near crash, while Mika Salo wasn't as lucky and wrecked his car. Then came race day, and the weather turned wild. Despite predictions of dry skies, rain began to pour over Spa. Schumacher, ever the rain expert, set the pace in warm-up, leaving fans eager for the action. When the race began, Häkkinen got off to a strong start, but Coulthard stalled. Villeneuve, meanwhile, zoomed forward and Schumacher found himself climbing up to 3rd. Then, chaos hit. Irvine and Coulthard tangled near Eau Rouge, sending Coulthard's car spinning across the track and triggering a massive pileup. With cars slamming into concrete barriers and drivers frantically trying to dodge the mayhem, it was nothing short of a disaster. Somehow, no one was seriously hurt, though several cars were too damaged to continue. After an hour's cleanup, only 18 drivers lined up for the restart. This time, Hill nailed his start, overtaking both McLarens as they rounded La Source, determined to make the most out of this wild, unpredictable race. While Damon Hill was riding high in the lead, Mika Häkkinen was in for a nightmare. Exiting La Source, his McLaren spun 180 degrees, leaving him stuck facing the wrong way. Helpless, he could only watch as Johnny Herbert's Sauber ploughed into him. Both drivers were out instantly, and the safety car was called in. Thankfully, the race didn't come to a halt this time. McLaren's troubles didn't end there. David Coulthard had a rough first lap too, struggling for control and sliding into the gravel after a brush with Alexander versus Benetton. He managed to rejoin at the back of the pack as the safety car led the field. The top 10 lined up as Hill, Michael Schumacher, Eddie Irvine, Jean Alesi, Jacques Villeneuve, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Ralf Schumacher, Giancarlo Fisichella, Pedro Diniz, and Jos Verstappen. After 2 laps, the stranded cars were cleared and the race was back on. Hill looked confident in his Jordan, running intermediate tyres in hopes the track would dry out. He held onto a slender lead over Schumacher's Ferrari as the rain kept falling, but as conditions worsened, it was clear that Hill was struggling. On lap 7, Schumacher made his move, outbraking Hill at the bus stop chicane to take the lead. The drama continued as Jos Verstappen's Stewart blew an engine on lap 8, forcing him out. On lap 9, Irvine damaged his front wing and barge board after missing a chicane, then pitted for repairs and full wet tyres. Meanwhile, Ralf Schumacher switched to full wets on lap 11, a smart move given the worsening rain. By lap 16, most of the frontrunners on intermediates, like Villeneuve, were also driving in for full wets, though Villeneuve had a detour into the barriers before his stop. Hill's own pit stop had a slight hiccup while the mechanics adjusted his front wing. By lap 17, he found himself sandwiched between the Schumacher brothers, with Michael comfortably leading and Ralf close behind. Alesi, Frentzen, Irvine, Diniz, and Fisichella rounded out the top positions, while Coulthard voiced his frustration, urging for another safety car, a move that would soon prove wise. By lap 24, Ralf Schumacher was hot on his teammate Damon Hill's heels, closing the gap to just 10 seconds, while Michael Schumacher had stretched his lead over Hill to nearly 30 seconds. It was on this lap that Michael narrowly avoided disaster with Diniz, a close call that felt like a sign of things to come. Just after, Michael came up behind Coulthard, who was about to be lapped. Schumacher, clearly impatient, waved at the McLaren to move aside. His irritation, though, would soon explode into full-blown anger. On lap 26, disaster struck. Trying to pass Coulthard, Schumacher's right front wheel clipped Coulthard's rear. The collision wrecked Schumacher's Ferrari and his race was effectively over. It was brutal. Schumacher had a lead of over 30 seconds and the championship was within reach. In an instant, it was gone. Furious, Schumacher returned to the pits, threw his steering wheel aside, and stormed straight to the McLaren's garage. He was absolutely livid, convinced Coulthard had caused the crash. What followed was the stuff of F1 legend. Schumacher confronted Coulthard, who still had his helmet on. He accused him of reckless behavior, even shouting accusations like, "You're trying to kill me." The exchange got so heated that the Ferrari and McLaren crews had to step in and physically pull the drivers apart. Now this was pure drama, the kind you can only hope for in a movie. Schumacher wasn't finished though. He stormed off to the steward's office to lodge an official complaint against Coulthard. Coulthard later reflected on the incident, said Schumacher's behavior was disgusting and noted that, for someone with such brilliant driving record, he had clearly trouble managing his anger. This was real spice, F1 style, and the drama didn't end there. With Schumacher out, Damon Hill found himself in the lead, but the race still had a twist to come. There was still hope for a Schumacher win because Ralf Schumacher, showing he could handle the wet as well as his brother, was flying up the ranks. Before his brother's crash, Ralf was already up to third and had whittled Hill's lead down from 22 seconds to just over 10. When a crash between Giancarlo Fisichella and Shinji Nakano brought out the safety car, it was Ralf's chance. As the field bunched up, Ralf was now right behind Hill with just 12 laps to go, and the stage was set for an epic final showdown. Jordan Racing suddenly had a shot at something historic, a 1-2 finish, a first for the team in a season where they hadn't placed higher than 4th. Ralf Schumacher, right now behind teammate Damon Hill, was encouraged by his engineer Sam Michael and started pushing hard after the restart. With rain pouring down and the race winding to its final laps, Hill was feeling the pressure and radioed the team, making his status as a former world champion clear. Jordan took its time considering what to do, especially with Ralf's contract negotiations for next season hanging in the air. Finally, they opted for team orders, instructing Ralf to hold position behind Hill. But getting that message across was another matter. Sam Michael tried a few times, but Ralf wasn't responding. When he finally did, it was with a curt 2-word reply, and there was a feeling he might ignore the orders. After all, Ralf was already in a legal tussle with Jordan to join Williams next season. Meanwhile, Eddie Irvine's race had ended as he spun his Ferrari into the gravel, joining his teammate Michael Schumacher on the sidelines. Ralf, showing some reluctance, did obey the team's instructions, though he wasn't happy about it. Gene Alesi applied pressure from behind but couldn't catch up to the Jordan duo, and other frontrunners like Frentzen and Denise lost pace, while Jarno Trulli managed to scrape a point for Prost, finishing 2 laps behind the leaders. Slow and steady comes 6th, as they say. The race finally ended on lap 44, and Damon Hill claimed Jordan's first ever Grand Prix win in a fantastic 1-2 finish. Eddie Jordan's celebration was iconic, a spontaneous jig in the paddock that captured the team's elation. But not everyone was celebrating. Ralf Schumacher, while he smiled for the cameras and joined the champagne spray, was visibly frustrated. In the bigger picture, this race changed everything in the championship. Michael Schumacher, losing his huge lead at Spa, missed out on a 3rd title by season's end, with Häkkinen clinching it instead. Had Michael won here, he would have gone into Suzuka with a 6-point lead rather than trailing by 4. In the end, only 8 out of 22 cars finished, with nearly every retirement due to crashes. The only one who bowed out with a mechanical issue was Esteban Chuero in the Minardi Ford, and he was probably thankful for it. Spa 1998 was truly unforgettable and had huge implications for the driver's title. You have to wonder if we'll ever see such a race again, especially with the FIA more likely to call off races in heavy rain these days. So what do you think? Will we ever get to see a more thrilling race? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video then make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay on the lookout for more.